Grandmaster Nightfall on a Titan first. Just want to see that and skip the timestamps. Over that, I can show you what I'm using, etc. So this video is going to focus on you getting the Triumph for the Conqueror Gilded Seal, because Corrupted is the hardest GM up, I think, this season. So I'll tell you what I was using. So this run's going to focus on a Titan. So we're using Hammer of Sol Super, Rally Barricade, Mini Thrown Hammer, Solar Grenade, Soul Invictus, Roaring Flames, Ember of Wonder, Ashes, Char, Torches. So, Ember of Solace is highly recommended, but I didn't use it just because for stats. I didn't need to use it, but you can use it. It's very good. Weapon-wise, we're using Osteo, Unstoppable Scout Rifle, Staccato with Incandescent on it. If you've got one with Shoot to Loot, I highly recommend that one as well, because it's got a secret perk as Shoot to Loot. And then Stormchaser and Arc Heavy, because Arc Acute Burn is on. Stormchaser is probably best in slot for this, either that or a Box Breathing Tarantula, but definitely not rockets. Don't mess around with rockets in this. Linears are the way to go. Heart of Inmost Light build with double arc resist, high energy fire. We're using a high energy fire setup with elemental wells. We've got Reap and Wellmaker. We've got elemental charge and shield break charge. So it means we've got multiple ways of getting charge of light, which gives us a 20% damage bonus to our weapons when we are. It does not stack with Radiant, that's fine, but it's still handy to have this on. Alright, so I still recommend that you use the high energy fire. I've been using it for a long time. Stat wise, 100% resilience, definitely. High discipline, high recovery, that's my stats I recommend. Other mods I had on Ashes Assets, Kinetic Siphon, Overload SMG, Unstoppable Scout, Elemental Charge, Linear Fusion, Holster, Classy Restoration, Revitalize and Blast with Transcendent Blessing. It is not required, I just had it on, as when you're in this Nightfall, it's classed as you being on Dream and City. I don't know if Linear Fusion, Scav and Ammo Finders work because they've been bugged. If they've been fixed, let me know, I don't know. But I don't think they have. So that's why I didn't use any Ammo Finders or Scavengers like I usually do. That's the setup that I'm using. So as we start the run, you want to beeline it for the first champ that spawns in, which is a Scorn champ. You need to take this champ really fast because the AI of this champ will want to back up to where the Void Shields are and all the Scorn. You're going to be in the line fire of a lot of enemies if you're not quick enough. So make sure that as soon as you go get to that spawn, get a nade down, use your Osteo as much as possible, spamming it, and use your Throwing Hammer. Because it does massive damage, even if you haven't got like Symphoceps on or Worm God. The Throwing Hammer really does good damage still. And we've got Heart of Inmost Light on, haven't we? Which is a very good build. The Splendor Helmet is very good, and next season it's going to be better because Classic Restoration goes. So I by no means call Splendor. I think it's an amazing exotic, and we want more. We want every exotic to be, not every exotic, but most exotics to be well designed, just like that one. So if you want to use Splendor, I wouldn't argue with you, right? I just like the Heart of Inmost Light playstyle. So this starting section, you need to clear out this Ultra. I recommend you do that straight away. After the first overload is taken, the Scorn one, you come to the back of the map where I'm sitting, and you just spam your nade, your Throwing Hammer, because obviously you're going to keep getting that back with Heart of Inmost Light. Right, then you want to take out the Overload. Now, if the Overload is aggroed on the Scorn, you're going to have trouble with this Overload. In general, this Overload gives me trouble because this Overload sits amongst the Void Shields. Now, I don't want to touch these Void Shields, but I'm unintentionally doing that. Because when I'm stunning a champ, Revitalize and Blast procs, so I'm killing these Void Shields. The reason why that's a problem is because it's going to spawn in an extra barrier. You can see a champion is defeated, a champion is peed. So that has ruined our run a little bit. Because here's the thing with the Platinum mechanic. You have one free token to skip one champ and you'll still get plat. But if you skip two champs, say, that would be gold. And that's what happened to me on this run. It's not that I skipped two champs. It's that I skipped one and then one other champ sort of didn't count. And I don't know why. And it should have done. But I can get to that when I can talk about that when we get to it. But yeah, if you get a champion appeared again, I guess just stay and take out that champ. Because the game then registers that in the pool. If the champ didn't spawn, that champ wouldn't exist for Platinum. But again, it's because I killed the Void Acolytes, which I didn't mean to. But it's going to happen, isn't it? The champ's sitting right in the middle of those Void Shields. It's annoying. Now, you can take the champ earlier than that if you want, but I prefer not to. There is another way of doing it. But But anyways, with the elevator section, which is very important, if you stand behind a pillar like this, you can pick up an orb behind a pillar and keep throwing balls while killing the scions with your nade and stuff. So you're going to see how well this works. Now, this is where people have problems, the elevator room and double ogre room. But you can see, look how well I'm surviving behind this pillar, because the orbs, see, the orb that tracks you doesn't track you really good when you're behind a pillar like this. And I can pick up orbs. I get both phalanxes, right, and any extra sounds, because I've done a good job at clearing out the sounds. To be honest, I cleared them all out, but if I hadn't, I could still, they would sit in my nade and I would clear out all the sounds like that. Rather than doing map rotation, I always go on about like map rotate, but actually not. You're making it harder if you map rotate around this elevator, on phase 1 at least, because you don't need to. Just sit behind a pillar, keep spamming your abilities, have a good uptime on your barricade. You need the 1% resilience for that, like I said. But if you do that and use this setup, then you're good to go. You can stand your ground and survive. You won't get shield bashed. Well, you still can, but it's unlikely as long as you're manipulating them phalanxes like I did. Phase 2 is when you need a super, so do not initiate phase 2 until then. My nade hit that wall. Isn't it brilliant? But I've got a super. So your super will make all the sunspots. This is why I don't run a Burnham Maul. Burnham Maul is a good super in some circumstance. But for solo play, when you need to be mobile, Burnham Maul is not a very mobile super. It does more damage than Hammer of Sol. Mind, it's not that much more. Like, they've actually done tests on it. Between hammers, Hammer of Sol, and Burnham Maul, it's not that much. If you have Roaring Flames on hammers, you're still doing massive. And you can be mobile with it. You need to be. You can't just sit. Corrupted is a classic example of when you need to, at times, map rotate. Now, this is when you do need to map rotate. I just said before you don't, but now on phase 2 you do. Because you've got 3 shields. Scions are dead, so you've done that. That's a tick box, right? Your next thing is getting these shields. Now I would focus the phalanxes, not the Taken Knight. The Taken Knight is, whilst it is dangerous a little bit, the shields, like, they do massive damage. This is why you need the max resilience, because if you get booped, the 1% resilience will save you. You can see it's just happened, right? You need to know the distance of how these can sort of shield bash you. Now, because of that modifier, knockback damage is increased, right, which they've nerfed multiple times. It's still a bad modifier. You still die at times when you shouldn't. So it's one of those things where you really need to sort of learn the distance and jump over their heads like this. Like, take advantage of jumping over their heads as they do a shield bash. If you can get the timing down of that, this phase 2 isn't too bad once the sounds are killed. And it gets progressively easier as well. The more shields you take down, the better it is. Don't be shy to use your heavy. You really don't want to be sitting on, like, use your heavy on these. Don't mess up, don't play around. Like, I'm playing around now. You can see I'm out of position. I'm not playing as I should. Don't play around with these phalanxes. But it's the thing of, you need to get a good line of sight on that champ. Not the champ, the major. So, like right now, I'm getting a good line of sight. I'm waiting, right? And now we can get the damage. Now, that does massive damage, Stormchaser. I know that they nerfed it, but it's still a top tier weapon. They adjusted its firing rate. It was probably meant to be like this when they launched it. It was unintended, the fire rate. It wasn't meant to be like that. So it's just a case of people are bitter about that, but this is how it's actually meant to be. It's not meant to fire back to back like that. So yeah, it is good. It's still great. And it's good in arc burn GMs. As I said, Tarantula is as well. There's people done this with Tarantula. So if you don't believe me how good Tarantula is, top tier weapon. Box breathing is very, very good for solo play, because your ammo goes so far. So you're not so when you stun a champ, you're not just doing 5 shots. You're maybe only doing 2. You're doing less shots, but you're equaling the similar amount of damage because of box breathing. But you take things a little bit slower with that playstyle. But there is people, I've used it. If you're not certain about the Tarantula thing, it is a very good weapon, still good. So once the Taken Knight is taken, which it's easy to manipulate that champ, the Taken Knight, sorry. But once that happens, you've got the Unstoppable and the Hive. that come into play. Take out the Unstoppable first, not the Arc Knights. It is tempting to actually take the Arc Knights here as well, but if you do that, the Unstoppable will disappear and go into the other room, which I never realised that. Because what I was trying to do is break their shield, then stun the champ. Revitalize and Blast would then kill the Knights. Yeah, it wasn't a good idea because the champ just disappeared. I don't know where the champ went, then he was in the next room. I was like, what is that? That was on a previous run to this. So yeah, just take the champ first. Then the 2 Arc Knights will back up. We know that they're going to back up to the Striga room, right? But then you don't worry about the Arc Knights, you worry about the Striga. Now I'm going to show you how you can manipulate the Striga to open the Striga up so that the Striga is open for damage, but the Striga cannot shoot you because you're out of the range of the ad, of the Striga. Because they have a range distance. They won't shoot you from infinite ranges. Like, look, I've opened the Striga up. So just take this position for reference. And then we can just, at your heart's content, use your scout. Osteo won't reach at this range. Even if you optimize range on it and all that, it still won't. So just use your scout. Yeah, but I wish I'd used the shoot to loot explosive payload one as opposed to incandescent. However, it's very, very good at the boss. That's where incandescent really shines, when there's tons of ads. So it is good. I'm just saying I wish I'd used my shoot to loot explosive one, because when you shoot a brick, a heavy, you get more ammo. So shoot to loot has an interesting secret perk where you pick up more ammo when you shoot it. So more heavy with shoot to loot. So it's like, I highly recommend that you use a shoot to loot scout. As I said, if you've got explosive on it, then that's fantastic. If you haven't, you haven't. I'm going to use a super here because we don't need it for anything else at the minute. Right, and it saves on a bit of heavy as well. So I'm not spamming too much heavy. There's bricks behind me in the previous room. Now, I haven't picked them up on purpose. Alright? There's a reason. Because we're going to come back here and do that. Just watch these knights. They do massive damage because of acute arc burn. So you can only withstand so much. So don't sit behind that barricade for too long. Even with class restoration, don't like sit behind. Now I'm going to speed the footage up. So you're going to see at times I'll speed up footage. At times when I think it's not that important. So this section here, going up to the double ogre room, isn't very important. I think pretty much anyone can do this because you're standing from distance. You're taking everything from distance. You've got Stormchaser for arc shields. You can stop the ogres from a distance, like so. Shriekers, you can manipulate them very easily. You'll see where I stand for those. So I'm just speeding the footage up. It helps me. So I have to do, I do less work commentary-wise because this is a long run. I actually was quite slow on this run. But I don't claim to be a connoisseur of Corrupted. I wouldn't say I'm a specialist on Corrupted because I haven't done that many Grandmasters on it, if I'm being honest. Not even team runs. I've done a couple here and there, but I'm not, like I say, a Corrupted expert nowadays. But I do know enough to get me by and get it done, right? So, and as I said, you can follow this and you'd still get you clear as long as you take the advice that I'm giving you, which you've got an upper hand as opposed to someone who's doing it for fresh, because somebody's here telling you on a video what to do. Whereas if somebody hasn't watched the video, they're working it all out as they go. And if you don't know everything, then it can get you killed. It really can. So this is the next place you stand. Just make sure that you outstrafe the Striga though, and pay close eye to restoration. When that runs out, you can't really peek that Striga for too long. They do void, but they melt. Even though it's not arc, they really melt. Now we're just going to clear this knight with an ability, because we've got Charge of Light. I don't want to lose Charge of Light. I want to keep all of it for now. Because having that for the double ogre room is really handy. Now this is where I'm going on an ammo run. So notice none of this ammo in the elevator room despawns. So if you've got 16 shots, you go and pick up a brick. That's such a waste. Just continue the run until you've done all these sections, then go back and pick up all the ammo. And now look, I'm max ammo for the next section, and that's the goal. Always be efficient with your ammo. It's more important, especially when things are bugged, like Linear Fusion, ammo-wise is bugged, the scav, or it was. So we're up on the left-hand side. This is a really good strat for double ogre, right? So you've got Hive Ogre and Taken Ogre, right? What I'm looking for is the unstoppable ogre. There is 1 hive unstoppable and 2 taken unstoppable. So there's 3 unstoppables in total. There used to be overloads and all sorts. None of that stuff exists now because they've nerfed it. They've realised how annoying it is to play in the double ogre room, so they've adjusted it for the better, in my opinion, because it was annoying fighting overloads with this castaway mechanic. You know, you've nearly killed an overload, he's nearly dead, or he's not, and then you teleport to the next realm. It's just annoying. It's not that it's I mean, it is difficult, but it also make it quite annoying. So look at this. So the unstoppable is pushed left. Why is that? Because before I was on the left hand side, so the ogre's remembered. That's good for me. I just missed that shot there. That was unfortunate, but that unstoppable will now be on left when I port back to that realm, which is good, because you do not want that unstoppable in mid, because then you've got to take fire from the main ogre. So look, I'm safe here. I can take this unstoppable easy now, and it's easy to lose track of that unstoppable. So easy at times. It's like, where's the unstoppable? And this unstoppable might spawn somewhere else when you go back there, and that's another thing that's quite annoying. We've got a super, so we're going to utilize that on the hive realm because we're done with it. We don't need to clear the Arc Knights. All that stuff is a waste, right? So don't be doing it. So when we port back to the hive realm, I'm going to use super and melt the hive ogre. Every time though, when you port back to the taken realm, try to get a stop on the unstops. They respawn every time you come back here in the middle. It's not like they just sit where the last were. It's kind of weird. They just keep porting back at the stairs, right at the back of the map. But if you can get your stuns right, you can get good damage in, and maybe proc some ignitions. I didn't proc that many ignitions, to be honest, but if you can, like so. Like, try and get that damage in. I didn't get my heavy shot there because aim assist dragged my cursor towards the boss, which is unfortunate. But we're doing constant damage to the unstoppables. So we're working on them. Every time we come here, we're making a little bit of progress, which is what you want. So now we're going to try and kill this main boss. Once you kill this boss, though, you will be in the taken realm. That's it. You won't come back here until you're done with the double ogre section. Try to aim down sights before you port, right? It gives you that little bit of extra time. So look, we get 2 stuns there. They're both quite weak. The only difference now is obviously we're not going to port back. So that means now the unstoppables are going to sort of wander in mid, which isn't ideal. But if you can lure them, you'll see I do kind of lure them, but just be careful of that boss, because he does a lot of his damage to you. I couldn't get my damage on this unstop. The angles wasn't there. But the unstoppable knows where I am, and that's important. We'll finish off this one unstoppable. There's one more up. So that unstop, I can see where he is, because you can see the little things glowing above him. So I'm going to actually aggro now. The unstoppable will be behind that wall if there's one left. So in order to combat that is jump up in the air. Jump up in the air, that unstoppable will then know where you are, and then you can stop. We're just going to melt down. Don't be shy to use heavy, because you're going to get plenty of heavy coming up. Heavy's not required for the next room anyways, so if you've got 0 heavy, you're still good. Because it's mainly... well, because Osteo allows you to do that, because Osteo can single-handedly take overloads. Right, the scout is very good for unstoppables. So all the heavies, the role of the heavy in this run is really just to speed up damage on targets. But it plays more of a role on the boss. That's where you do need a bit of the ammo. Not too much, 'cause if you've got Stormchaser you'll save, because you're doing massive damage per shot. As opposed to, say, use Threaded Needle, you're going to do far less damage, although it is a good weapon. Or maybe Reed's Regret. It's stasis, but you're not going to get a burn off it. So there's less reason for you to run it. So now we're going to skip the Shriekers. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Wait for the Shriekers to stop shooting. That's number 1. Next step is come to the left or right stairs, whichever side. Pop a barricade just in case. Do not double jump. If you double jump, you will wake the Shriekers up. This never used to be like this. I don't know when it's changed. Then we'll speed footage up again because this section I feel as though is not that important. So we're going to speed it up. So this is the 2 unstoppables. You can come back here. You can bait them all the way in this room. If there's any ammo in this room, pick it up. There wasn't for me. Not that I could see. But yeah, you can see how easy it is just to deal with these unstoppables from here. Don't let them shield bash you into a wall. That will kill you. The bash itself won't, but if you physics into a wall, then that will kill you. Yeah, that's your unstoppables. Then there's a couple of Scions, taken Scions. Or taken for all, sorry. Actually, I'm glad they're not Scions because I hate taken Scions. Let's keep doing this. Then we've got 2 more unstoppables, which they are easily dealt with. I'm not going to use any heavy because I'm quite low on it. And it's a fail-safe because if I did only get, say, 1 more brick before the final boss, I would be good. 15 shots would be really good if I got that. If you get max ammo at the boss fight, even better. Right? But you will also have a high opportunity of getting ammo at the boss because it's ad dense. Right? I will give it that, this strike. It is very ad dense, so that means there's more opportunity for ammo. It's just that I'm not going to kill a lot of ads. After this section, I'm not clearing that many ads. It'll be just the boss fight. That's why, as I say, that's why I'm speeding this up, because I feel as though most people will be comfortable with this section. You're dealing with things from range. There is 2 void shields, and you need to take them. The reason for that is they will slow you down, maybe freeze you while you're dealing with an overload, because you want to deal with them on the cliffs. The overloads, that is. So what I suggest is actually jump where they are, because they're not that threatening. Right, and then just use a barricade, it will blind them, and then just use Osteo to power the shield down, and your throwing hammer as well, of course. Then you can use the cliffs like this to take out the overloads, like so. So this is where you take left, and then right side there's a cliff over right side where you deal with the right side overload. This means that you don't need to deal with the ultra. There's an ultra in the back of the map. That doesn't count for platinum. Right? So this is why I'm actually dealing with him. But something's happened, and this sometimes happens. The overload has pushed to middle. Right? So I'm like getting baited. The game's baiting me there, because look. Now the champ's like saying, no, I want to go back to right. Origin point is right side. So why did that overload bother to go mid to then just do that? That is just kind of annoying. But I've slowed it down from now just to show you how you actually would take this one on the right. If that happens, don't get baited by it, or use some heavy. If you had more heavy than me, then you could get 1 stun, and you can kill a champ in 1 cycle with Storm. Just make sure you hit all your crits. But as I said, I wasn't willing to use the ammo, so I just waited till he goes right. Then we'll go and skip. Just watch this ultra. I didn't do a good job there of skipping him. There's a better way of doing it than that. What you can do is bait him over right, then go over left side cliffs, then jump down, and you're less likely to get hit. Or pop a barricade before you go past him. Pretty simple. But as I said, there's no point to be taking that major there. They should have just made that major an extra champ. You know, maybe 3 overloads instead. At least there's more of a point to actually dealing with that bit. Because there shouldn't just be it's a wanted target, I think. There used to, if people don't know, there used to be wanted targets in Nightfalls. I think that's what that is. Although it's not named as a wanted target, it's just been changed to a ultra taken thing, mini boss type thing. So we'll speed it up again. Now what I was trying to do here is shoot the overload and then have the overload fall off map. He nearly did. If you saw that, he will walk off. But here's the kicker with this. If you tag the champ, you should get platinum. Even if you tag him with the wrong weapon, like a scout, as long as the champ falls off and you've tagged them, you'll get scoring for the champ. But that didn't happen on this run. It bugged. I don't know why, but this cost me platinum. This was the actual champ that if this champ had been counted as credit for me, I would have got platinum as opposed to gold. I'm not too fussed, like I say, because it's more teaching people how to actually do corrupted. See there, he falls off, I get no credit. I've tagged the champ. In any ways, why is the champ wanting to fall off? That's another thing. You know, why are they bothering putting champs up here when they know they're just going to fall off map like that? It's just a case of, I don't know. That's why there's things like that that puts you off, puts people off corrupted, stuff like that. You know, it's not good to farm either. It's not a good farm team-wise. Mainly people just do it for the guild or the completion. So this is how you skip, but what happened to me, I was fine until I got frozen. So we'll use a super. Right, that's fine, we can refarm a super up at a later time. That's alright. But if I hadn't, I would have died. It's just because I got frozen. But that's how you skip all those ads above you. Right, and this is where the area that you want to come to. Take out the sniper where I'm aiming at first. If you don't do that, the sniper, the vandal, will bubble the overload, meaning that the overload will then get enraged, and you can't deal with the overload properly. Use linear if you have to, because these snipers do massive damage to you. Then we'll deal with this overload first, because behind me there's a minotaur and stuff, right, up on that cliff area. Well, they'll shoot down at you, so I like to take this overload first, then the one behind me, because the one behind me can't see me, but that one can. So if I took the one behind me, that one I've just killed would ambush me and freeze me and stuff like that. So it's better to take that one. Then this hallway area is really good. It means the ads above the minotaur and all that stuff won't hit us, and I can freely take this overload at my leisure. I'm just gonna get a kill with Osteo. I'm not gonna use the heavy. We got a brick as well, so it's worked out in our benefit. So I'm nearly max on ammo. I'm good for heavy, so now it's mainly on the boss fight. So this is mainly what people are, as I say, going to struggle with. Phase 1's comfortable. There is a huge thing that can happen to you though, which I can discuss a little bit. It's to do with the boss. It's to do with the boss and what happens at the boss fight with the nature of the attack from the boss, because the attack is arc. Now we have no super here. Generally you would super all these ads. I don't have one because I used one before to save ourselves. So I'm just going to use incandescent and my nade. You're going to see how much of a good job my solar abilities and stuff do really well here. So this is where you can stand. Now notice I was getting joint allies there at the very top of this island. Don't know why. But eventually that goes. I don't know why it's like that. It's such a weird thing. Like, are they letting people stand here, or is this a bug as well? Are they watching people even soloing these? Like, I guess you are meant to stand on this island, because that was the big change that they done. Because where the hell are you meant to stand to kill ads? It's not a problem on Master Nightfall's Legend or even Strike variant, but Grandmaster, it's a little bit of a different thing. So I think that's why they've opened this island up. I mean, they've done it seasons ago, but when they did it, I thought it was a good change, because it's given us somewhere to work from. Right? You can't expect just somebody to sit in middle island. I mean, a super will get you so far, but on the next phase you're not going to have a super, so how do you deal with it? Stasis is very good in this, you know, turret builds and stuff like that. But just in general, you know, like, not everyone's using stasis, so you can't design an encounter around just having one subclass, because this game's meant to be designed so that you play all of them, and that's more of you as it choosing to play that class, as opposed to I have to play this class. If I don't, I will die. That's bad design. Never design an encounter around subclass usage. It should never be like that, because then what happens? You incentivize invisibility build. So this is why people get upset with solo GMs. They don't like doing them. Even the really good players. I've heard a lot of them say, oh, well, I don't do the GM solos because it requires invis to be effective. And they're right. This season it's a little different because we've got Solo 3.0 Classy Restoration. That's going away. So it would be different if we didn't have that mod. This particular run that I'm doing, it would be harder. So for the boss, it takes 5 orbs to take down the boss's shield. So hear me out with this. You do 4 balls, so the boss's shield is 1 shot. Then you take the last orb to the middle island. This is so important that you do this. If you don't do this right, you're gonna mess it up, and you will definitely die if you're caught off guard when there's ads spawning, because you're gonna get an ad phase here coming up. But there's like 5 seconds, I would say, you've got to do damage and then get out of there. And it's handy that you do that, because it just helps out overall. It means that you're not doing damage over that back island, which is awkward. So you're going to do your damage here, right? Make sure that you had your linear fusion equipped as you pick up the orb, look. Because that when you throw the orb, you will have your linear readied, holstered to shoot the boss. Now you want to put in your damage. My aim's terrible, but put in as much damage as you can, right? If you hit all your shots, you're going to get that boss less than a third easy. I'm going to use a super here because I can farm up another super anyways. Just make sure that you do though, because this strat revolves you around you getting your super again before you leave boss phase 1 to 2. But notice how well the super done there. There's still some knights left alive, because what happened there is we got 2 waves of ads. So that means there's more knights than usual, because we got a wave of ads because we broke the boss's shield, and we got a wave of ads because we done damage and got him to his next phase. So it's 2 phases, that's why there's so many. So it's fine to do that as long as you've got a strategy to deal with it. So now I'm going to rely on my grenade because I've got Ashes to assets in. So just watch my super bar. Watch all the kills, the kill feed, like, just watch the kill feed, how good it is. And we've got our super just about. So that's just showing you how good that is. So I did use it, yeah, but I've got it back. So you can be effective from this back island with this setup. Because I've used Heart of Inmost Light, I'm spamming my nades. I'm using Incandescent on the scout. So it's working out well. See, what's going to happen though is you're going to have knights up, more than likely. And they're going to hide, especially if there's 4 of them. If there's 3 knights, 1 will push, 2 will hide and stuff like that. And it's annoying to play against. It's just a mechanic of shielded enemies in this game. They do hide. When they've got a shield, they won't push. When they've got a shield, they push. When they don't have a shield, they don't want to push you. It's a thing that's been in the game forever. It's just a mechanic that we deal with. But it can be a pain if you're fighting from a long range. Because now these knights aren't pushing. So it's a case of we've got to be careful. Now the reason why I'm playing so skittish is because the boss has 1-shot potential from at you when you're at this back island. I don't know why, it just is a thing. So this boss can outright... I've got footage of it. Well, actually, I might have deleted it. I can't mind. But there's footage out there of people getting 1-shot by this boss. Even if you've got tier 10 resilience, classy restoration, double arc resist, the boss can still 1-shot you. And I don't know... We don't know why. I think it could be something to do with range. So think about it. I'm on this back island. I'm a far away distance off this boss. It seems to be the longer the arc attack goes from the boss, the more damage it does to you. Look how far away the boss is. Whereas if I'm pretty close to the boss, not like stomp distance, but 5 to 10 meters, the attack does barely anything. But the further you stand away, and there also seems to be something wrong, as there's maybe grounded or airborne. When you're in air, sometimes the boss does more damage to you, because that used to be an old modifier in these Nightfalls. Because Grandmasters aren't Grandmasters, if you know what I mean. They've been adapted to old style Nightfalls. When this game came out in 2017, Grandmasters weren't a thing, which is why you've got so many bugs in Grandmasters, like buggy with champs and stuff, because champs aren't designed to be in this activity. They are a makeshift enemy type in this activity. So that's why you get issues, because these are just meant to be the prestige Nightfalls. They've been adapted to GMs because they had to change them in 2019. But all I'm saying is, because they didn't rework it from the ground up, there's so many bugs and inconsistencies where old mods still might exist in the game that aren't up. There used to be a lot of secret modifiers in the game for Nightfalls. There's one called Iron, I think it was called Iron, where ads don't stagger. All Nightfalls had that secret. The old style. A lot of people won't know all this stuff because they didn't play back then. So that's why there's so much inconsistencies of GM Nightfalls. Because they have been adapted from the old style Nightfalls. So there's only one night left, right? So we're gonna use our nade to keep Charge of Light. So we killed him with an ability kill. I've still got Charge of Light, so I recommend that you do that. On the final, I'd try to maintain. I know it's tempting just to kill with Osteo, but try to maintain Charge of Light. I mean, if you had ×2, you'd only lose 1 stack, so you would still have 1 stack. Because if you do that, it will help you bypass the next phase. Because you need to do probably a third amount of damage to the boss to get the boss immune, so that you can instantly jump through the portal to phase 2. That's what we're doing with it. Now be careful, as I said, don't give the boss any license to be able to one-shot you. As I said, the further away the boss is, the more likely that one-shot thing can happen. However, I've been one-shot close as well, so it's RNG, which is it's a pain to play against this boss because of knowing that at any point you could get one-shot. But it's the nature of it, isn't it? That's why it's so hard, Corrupted. It's not so much that it's a hard run, it's that, oh, well, this could happen and you wouldn't know about it. And it happened, and sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. So it's like, that's why Corrupted is the way it is. So we're going to do the same thing as we've done before, but we're going to stand at the back of this middle island, because that's where the portal shows up. So we'll lure the boss over right hand side of the other island, and what we're going to do is throw our last orb, right, and then do damage. The boss shouldn't boop you, but she does. You also need to pay attention to the rocks, the asteroids that are going past, because you need to do DPS after that's happened. Now we got pushed here. That was totally unexpected. Guess I was just too close. I nudged up just that little bit. So that's another thing. The boss will only do that depending on how close you are. On this phase, at least. We end up missing our orb because of that. It screws up. I end up screwing up here because I thought she was gonna do that again, but she doesn't. So we miss our orb. So that's actually kind of my bad. So we have to go and get an orb again. It's critical that you take down the shield at the right spot. If you take down the shield on the far island, if you don't get enough damage in, you're gonna have to deal with the next phase, right? And we've already dealt with enough. So do you really want to do an extra phase of knights? Probably not. So if you just do this, it'll make it easier. So look at asteroids. Look, there's one behind that. So we'll wait for this one. We'll do a barricade. We'll equip Linear first, so you've holstered it, right? Throw orb, and then get your damage in. It should be pretty easy to get your damage in from there. Just keep shooting until immunity, then pop super. Don't try and say, oh, well, I won't pop super. Just pop it just in case. It's a fail-safe just in case you die, because you'll get that super resistance. Your super's good for nothing at this point, so just waste it. And then we're going to deal with phase 2. So this is phase 2. So phase 2 isn't too bad. The problem that we have is shielded targets hide when you take their shield down. This whole mechanic of they don't want to push. That's the hardest thing about it. Obviously you need to watch the boss at all times. That's always a threat. But the boss isn't too much of the threat. It's more the knights and the overloads. Well, there's one overload, one on stop. Right? Now, it just depends. Sometimes the knights will reveal themselves for a little bit longer than other times, because I've done this a couple of times. I've done Corrupted enough to know that certain things happen, certain patterns with the enemies, where on one run they'll completely de-aggro, and on other runs they'll show themselves occasionally, and there's a bit of randomness to it. So sometimes you might have to push up. The snipers, you need to take them out. The snipers will push. The Vandal snipers. Take those out, that's step 1. Step 2, if you can see the overload before the taken knight, that's great. Because Revitalize and Blast is classed as solo damage. Isn't that something? So when you stun a champ, you're also going to break that knight's shield. It's fantastic. So it means that while you're killing the overload, you will kill the knight. So I recommend that you do that. Again, it just depends on which enemy pushes you first. Because if that knight does solar on you, you've got to back up, and then that boss, the corrupted boss, could actually shoot arc at you from over there and kill you. Because you've had to back up because of the knight, and then... So you can see how that could... You could think that you're good, and then you're not. Just like that, in a second. That's why people play these quite slow. I mean, obviously there's some people that've done some incredible runs. I've watched a couple and they're great. But as I said, I'm not a connoisseur of corrupted. So I haven't really done a fast run myself. But I've done a run that you can follow. For somebody who hasn't done it. This video is for somebody who hasn't done it. Not somebody who has done it, really. Somebody who just wants to get to learn the basics about it. So we need to take the Taken Knight down first, and the Vandal. I think we've already took the Vandal, but take those two targets out, the boss will teleport to the next island. Because there's one more island where you've got to do with an Unstop and another Solar Knight and stuff. I rely on my nade quite a lot, because here's the thing with the nade. When you nade a target, the enemy will sit in that nade, more likely to. Whereas if you start shooting the shield, the knight just wants to teleport behind cover, and then it just makes it annoying, and it's more of a patience game as opposed to anything else. Because you've got to pay attention to that boss at all times. As I said, you can't give the boss any license to give a direct hit on you, because that's where you'll get one shot. If you take some splash damage, it'll just be like a third or 20% off your HP bar. There's something I forgot to do. I was going to stun the Unstoppable from all the way back there, which you can, to proc Revitalize and Blast. But I've missed the time window to do that. I actually forgot to do it. So yeah, you can actually aim down sights over here. If the Unstoppable, if you can see the Unstoppable, like there, you can actually proc Revitalize and Blast, and it kills a lot of ads. It just means when you go closer, there's less snipers, there's the knights already damaged and primed, ready to be killed. It just helps out overall, but I forgot to do it. And now the Unstoppable is hiding indefinitely, so I'm going to have to push. But it's not too much of a problem, because you can get that Unstopped to push without jumping to that island. I'm going to do it in a minute. There's a pillar to the left, notice that's where I'm going to stand. I'm actually not close enough yet. Notice no ads are pushing. So we'll push up a little bit, and then you'll see they'll push. Unstoppable. Oh, there's a knight as well still. So we'll get a barricade down just in case we get any nonsense. I didn't like that with the solar, so I pushed back. At the very least, these knights don't regen their HP like the Boomer knights do, the Arc Shield ones. So the Fire Knights don't, it's a godsend, because if they did, it would make it so much more difficult. So when you kill the knight, the boss actually retreats. The Unstoppable will actually stay there. So we're going to get the Unstop to push. I'll just creep up a little bit further. Once the Unstop sees you, you'll push though. So this is a really good place to take. I'd rather do it from here than risk of potentially getting booked off, because of that knockback damage thing. Like if I just make one wrong move and I try and jump over the Phalanx's head and I get caught, it could kill me, jump off. I'm not willing to risk it at 48 minutes in. That's all I'm saying. So look, the Unstoppable's free to take, so I may as well just kill him from here. And I don't want to use heavy, because I want that for stuff at the phase 3, because phase 3 is definitely the most difficult, I think. It's one of the most difficult encounters in general for Nightfalls, solo wise. It just is, because there's moving rocks in the middle, right? There's Scions at different phases, there's knights that you need to kill. Now they broke all the waves of enemies up, made it easier, so Bungie have done a lot to make Corrupted easier and less infuriating than what it used to. And they've done, for the most part, a decent job. But just remember, it's Classy Restoration, it's Soul 3.0, it makes it a little bit easier. If that wasn't out, like imagine doing this on Arc. I mean, we don't know what Ark's going to be like, but I imagine it'd be very difficult to solo Corrupted on Ark. I hope we don't get Corrupted next season. I'm not a huge fan of it as a GM, as I said, just because it's not something where there should be procedures that you follow, and then if you the more you know it, the less chance of you are to die. But even with all the knowledge in the world on this, you can still just die in seconds, or be one shot by the boss random, and that to me is not fun. I like a solo challenge, you know I do. I've been making videos for years. Alright, so you can't say I don't like a solo challenge. I do. There's people that like it more of a challenge than me. I will admit that. Because there's people, frankly, got more time than me. I don't have as much time as some of these other people that play day in, day out. They live and breathe and eat this game. I don't, to a degree, only for the first couple of weeks of a season I go mad. After that, I calm down. My playtime's really low. Lower than what you'd think it was. Right, I'm doing this more for the videos lately, these days. Right, so I do like a challenge, but as I said, this is just an annoyance, this GM, overall, I think. But as I said, they've made it easier than what it was, and it is. And there's some rules that you can follow and succeed by. The Scions, if you notice there, right? So I spawned in the first wave of ads, jump back to the previous island, because there's no joiner allies. But the weird thing about this is no join allies on the previous island procs after this phase. So why? That doesn't make any sense to me. So at first you're allowed to fight from there, and then you're not allowed to fight from there. Who's designing this? Who thought that was a good idea? It's like, oh, you can stand there for phase 1, but phase 2 not. You're not doing it. It's like, what? There's no structure to it. You've got to, if you don't know that, you wouldn't know it. Then you'd be learning it on the go. It's not obvious that you can go back and stand there. So what our goal is to survive, obviously, and do the 5 orb relics. Now the rule is when you get booped, the boss will boop no matter what, on a cadence. When that happens, do not be in midair. The reason for that is because, especially on a Titan, because Titan has the best momentum jump. But it works against you on this fight, because if you get booped while you're in midair, the boop, the knockback damage will be even more. Whereas if your boots on the ground get knocked, you will not get knocked so much. Also, practice sliding into the boss as opposed to from away. We'll use a super here because it's very important. So this is what, when you break the boss's shield here, you'll get 2 solar knights. This is what the super's for. You must have a super for this bit. You could survive without it, right? But I'm just saying, like, in general, like, that's what your super's there for stuff like that. So use it. 2 knights are cleared. There's no Scions yet, because they've split up the Scions from the knights. They used to be together, which was a nightmare in itself. But now it's separate, so things are a little bit more structured. That way I like that change. Yeah, it makes it easier, but it's more structured. You know what's coming. And now it's damage to the boss. I was considering maybe waiting a super, but I was, at this moment in time, I was actually considering it, because you can mess up on Scion Wave. There's only a couple of Scions, but if you leave them to teleport, the Scions that is, you could have a floor full of Scions. Even though it's 5 Scions, it could duplicate to 10, 15. You've got a problem on your hands. And if you have no super, so then you've got the boss to look after. The Scions, they do arc, they duplicate. You've got to optimize your Osteo and your Sunspot setup. You've got, this is where it really comes in. Like I said, I was considering maybe, you could do it if you wanted. It will be a little cheap, don't get me wrong, it would be. But for somebody who just wants to clear, it doesn't matter, they're not making a video on it, nobody's going to see it. So yeah, if you want to just do that, don't do any damage to the boss, wait for super, damage the boss until next shield, then super the Scions. It will be foolproof strategy. And that's what we're here for most of the time. You know, because your nade, your solar grenade is good, but say you miss your solar grenade, you miss your throwing hammer, which is easy done on Scions, then what? You really are screwed. And then you get distracted by Scions, the boss then boops you off map. That's what will happen. So we're going to use a solar grenade and a barricade. We're too close to the boss here. So it's a lot of things to multitask. And we're just going to do a bit of rotation. See, when the sounds jump across to the sections, that's when you can take advantage of solar nades and stuff. So notice, this island split up into little sections. There's points where the sounds have to jump. When they jump over, that is the key time to use a nade. They'll all sit in the nade and then die. So all sounds are dead. Just foolproof check that though, around the map. Make sure there's not one. Because if there isn't one, if there's one, that could lead to another 10. Because they duplicate rather fast once you de-aggro from the enemy. So you've got to make sure they're all dead. Whilst multitasking the boss. Not letting the boss boop you off map and stuff. So now the orb, the relic, is in middle, of course, right? So now the boss is super aggroed on you. This phase I actually find to be easier because I find that the boss is less likely to have a chance of booting me off the map because I'm just running around the map at this point. I'm just going round and round, so that boss can never really catch me, but I'm kind of aware that boss is just always sort of behind me, so I actually prefer that. I actually prefer it like that. But just know that the boss is aggroed and will stomp you. Right, so if you're close to that boss within a 2 meter radius, that boss can one-shot you. It's happened to me before. I've seen it happen to other people. And that's something that you don't want to happen. So you need to play fast attention, like a lot of attention on this phase. I know it's just you and the boss, but you really need to focus on where that boss is going. Like if the boss is hovering in mid, do not go for that relic. Don't go for the relic until the boss is on the outer rim of the island. Like there, look, that boss nearly stomps me. You can hear the stomp mechanic. So see how I made a little mistake there. Well, it wasn't a mistake, but it was a little slow play. It nearly cost me a wipe. Stuff like that. And it's just a case of you've got to keep that distance at all times so that it doesn't happen to you. There's one more shield break to do. Just know that there'll be 2 extra knights that spawn. So you need to be prepared to kill this boss as you break shield, because you do get a 5-second time for free to sort of kill that boss, but the knights will close in on you fast, and by that time, if you haven't got a super, I mean, I've nearly got my super here, so technically I could have waited out a super. The boss is going everywhere, so I can't get my crits. I get booped. We'll pop a barricade. The knights are closing in, so I'll get a quick reload and then finish the boss off. A little sketchy at the end, but you can see how you can still kind of mess up and still get away with it. But that was a solo GM for Corrupted on a Titan. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.